And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, it's amateur radio amplified on 100 watts and a wire. It's Christian, my call signs. Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And whether you're an experienced ham radio operator or just getting started, this podcast was created to mentor, entertain, and provide a community for those radio enthusiasts around the world. You're listening to episode number 396. Welcome to it. You can tune in with us every Sunday at 6 o'clock Central Time on YouTube as we do the live stream recording of the podcast, and then we send it off to you, subscribers, on the podcast. If you have a question, you're here with us, put a Q in front of it, and we will put it in our queue and get you hooked up and try to get you an answer. The fellows are also here, Steve, W7UDI, and Scotty, KC3BXN. Welcome. Everybody is in the mood for some corn chowder. I don't know how corn chowder became the topic of the pre-show, but we ought to sell tickets to that because the pre-show is probably where it's at. That's probably like at the core of rawness is the pre-show, and it's all wrong. And if you see everybody laughing and hanging out and falling over, and Steve almost spit out some of his beer, it's because...
No beer yet. No,
that's
for the drinking game during the net.
We will have a drinking game tonight. I know that sounds juvenile, but it will get you messed up because...
I'm okay with it.
We're going to pick certain words that our net controllers will say, and when they say those things, ding, we will have to drink up. So it could be coffee, it could be tea, water, beer. If it's bourbon, you're gonna get it. But you're
hosed by the end of the night.
Because I know all these little things that the people say, and they just keep coming up and coming up. And on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the DX contest was happening. We made some good contacts. We'll talk a little bit about that. While we're here and while you're here, drop down into the chat. What new ones did you get to work? Did you work any new DX entities? Let us know what it was. We'll talk about ours if we had any, but we want to know what you were able to work during last weekend's DX contest. We'll also talk about some of the conditions of last weekend. And what I'm really excited to get to is to see if Steve, Sidecar Steve, made it out to this ham fest. It's kind of like this first. What happened? No. What happened, Steve? What happened?
We had a call in the middle of the night, Friday night, so it pretty much hosed. I got hosed on it by the time I got home and tried to catch a little shut eye, and I overslept. And by the time I got up, it was, oh boy. By the time I get there, it would be way too late to find the deals under the table. And that's what I was looking for.
But he still hasn't found what he's looking for. Gotta say hello to some of our friends who are here tonight. The 0.001% guys is here. Sheena Marie is here. Kilo Zero Lima Tango Lima. She is the head now of the female edition of 100 Watts and a Wire. Unfortunately, it's just Sheena, who she has no major projects on hand at this point, but she is number one in our book, or 0.001. Yeah, something like that. Mark is here. Hello, Mark. And Marilyn, he's here. Here's a new one here. KD9WNV checking in. Is a new ham, too, fellas. We say hello to Ed Helm. Ed Helm, welcome.
Well,
thanks.
Congratulations, Ed, and welcome.
Charles is here. Also, he's Kilo Echo 7, Echo Whiskey Yankee. Hello, and welcome to you. That looks like a new name, and we're glad to have you. If you're new, put new in the chat. Meet some new friends, and you may be so lucky to meet the 0.001%. The women's division of 100 Watts and a Wire. So, yes, let's talk about some of our DX. If you got to work anything new, drop that in the chat, and we'll talk about it as well. Steve, did you get to play at all in this contest? It's one of those ones? Go ahead.
No, not this one. I was busy doing chores and other stuff around the house and the shop here, so I did get a chance while I was out in the shop to turn on the radio and just kind of listen around and people working. It went up to 10 meters, and oh my God, was that band smoking. So hopefully all you technicians got your 10-meter rigs out and started working the DX, because what was spotted on the cluster was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Scotty, how about you? Did you get involved in this? Did you take out the gummy? Scotty's got a full line of products called the Gummy Loop, the Gummy Sticks, the Gummy. What else you got there? What else? We got some. We're working on the Gummy Wire. Gummy, changing the name to Ellicott City to Gummyville.
I made this cool controller for my Gummy Loop.
Let's see it. What you got there? Ooh, for our listeners at home, let's describe this little black box. Is this something to do with anything to do with the rock and roll? Did you convert something from the rock and the roll?
So this is I rigged this up to turn the air capacitor on the Gummy Loop antenna, and it's just a cheap DC controller motor from eBay, and a cheap little 12-volt DC motor that I have up there. And I got this project box, and I wired it all in there, put a little power light on there, and put a nice little sticker on there. It says it's the Gummy Loop RC1. So
nice,
nice.
And some buttons, left and right buttons, momentary switches to turn the cap back and forth. And these are off of a late 1970s EMT T240 stereo gold plate reverb. That's sitting abandoned at the studio, in the graveyard at the studio.
Oh man!
And this is the reverb time adjustment for the damper for the plate reverb. And so I'm borrowing these switches right now. I will, if I get around to putting the plate back in service, I will put these switches back and put something else in there.
Borrowing the Neve board too, the Neve audio console.
They look too classy with the big red and
sexy,
and turned stainless steel trim rings there to pass up for my Gummy Loop remote control project.
Beautiful, beautiful, nice work. I love that you're getting your hands in there doing the ham thing. You're in there building stuff, and that's exciting to watch. Looks like Zachary is here. He's Kilo 4 Tango Papa. Hello, welcome to you. Frank is here from Germany tonight. DC3CC, great call sign. Thank you for checking it out here from Germany. Scotty, did you get to work in the contest at all, or were you building?
I was doing a little bit of everything. I was listening. I did make a few contacts, but they weren't. Wasn't anything new for me at the time.
Okay.
And I was nagging my brother to get on 10 meters because it was hopping, and he was at him and his wife do adopt a pet events on the weekends, and so he was at one of those, and so he was away from the rig. So, but was listening, played around a little bit, nothing new, but having some fun in the shack nonetheless.
Right on. I want to let people know that we will open up the Zoomy Roomy. We have that in the description if you ever want to drop in, make a comment, leave your call sign there, and come in with on mute, and I'll keep an eye on that, see if anybody wants to come in and give a comment. And looking through the chat to see, it's KD5 PCK worked Tasmania from Louisiana this morning around 8 o'clock. That's pretty damn good right there.
That's cool.
Let's see, who else do we have there? Let's see who worked. I'm just scrolling back here to see if anybody has posted working any new ones. All right, but let's go and I'll talk about some of the ones. I got into the little thing. It becomes a nutty chase. We had 162 weekends ago, and then right on the heels of that, it's the DX one. And I think I'm like a lot of folks, I guess, in this way, where if I already have that entity or that country, if you're new, you might hear it as an entity. So if I have it, I probably don't try for it, really, with an exception, which I'll talk about in a second. But I was following the Discord, and Minnesota Don, we call him Minnesota Mitts. It's personal. we don't talk about that except for in the pre-show. Minnesota Mitts. He's got those thick fingers. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But anyway, Don was on the Discord, and we were like kind of spotting for each other, and we'd be like, this one's on, this one's on, this one's on, and it would go in waves, and we were kind of chasing at the same time, which was kind of cool. And we worked a couple of the same ones, just because we were tipped off to it. And so in the shack, let's see, I'll go by the number of like length, or miles rather. And I would say the shortest distance was still 5,400 miles. And he was like, Ukraine is on. I said, okay, Ukraine. I feel like I have Ukraine, but I don't know. You know, I didn't even know what the call signs to look up. I'm like, let me just see if I can get it. It seemed timely with the history and what's going on now with the war they're fighting. And I'm like, it's just kind of cool. There's a cool vibe about somebody in Ukraine is running, you know, their radio with some sort of antenna up in the midst of wartime. I'm going to go in. And so Ukraine was one. And then one that isn't as far away, but I sort of have trouble getting to this part of the world. And it was Kazakhstan. And I saw it and I've seen it before. And I'm like, I'm going to go get it. And the guy will ultimately fade out. Just, damn. Yeah, you kind of hear him just like it's melted away. But I worked Kazakhstan, and then Minnesota Mitts worked Kazakhstan. So we're all like, yeah. And then Mongolia. Mongolia comes up, and I'm like, all right, Mongolia, yeah. Mongolia. And I'm like, I know I don't have that. And I'm looking at the spotting thing, and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm looking around, and I'm seeing that looks weird to me because I don't have it. Mongolia. Put that on Discord. Mitts pulls that one in too, right? And then Indonesia, and I got a little story about Indonesia. This one's been on my list for a while that I have not got. And I have trouble. I just have trouble reaching that part of the world. And so, you know, I'm calling, I'm listening, waiting, and he's up and he's down a little bit, but he still sounds good enough for me to make a contact. He's maybe 5'7", to, you know, in that area. It might drop down a little bit. Many calling, like there was so many people trying to call Indonesia, and I'm in the mix, right? And so it's me and another guy, and I had his call sign written down for a completely different purpose because he ended up being a bit of an alpha hotel on this exchange, and we were both calling at the same time. Oh, Steve, I was like, man, a younger version of me. I was like, you know, for real, dude. So what happened was I'm calling, this guy's calling. And we both may have been in zero land. You know, you could almost hear like the sun or whatever it was coming across because he was hearing all East Coast at first. And then he started to make it a little further out, Ohio. And, you know, and you feel like, all right, man, well, he's starting now to hear. For a long time, he was just hearing the East Coast. And finally, he worked a station in Colorado. And I'm like, I'm going all in on this. So me and old boy were calling. The station in Indonesia calls like Whiskey Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. This guy was like Whiskey Bravo something, whatever. And, you know, Sierra Tango Hotel, he calls for Sierra Tango Hotel Station. So I'm come back again. He's calling on top of me. And then, do you know this guy had the Gordos to tell me, not the guy in Indonesia, the other guy tells me to stand by. And I said he called Sierra Tango Hotel. This guy didn't have any of those in his suffix. Nothing. He was Whiskey Bravo something douchebag from hell. Something like that. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And something was like, calm, you know, Christian, just be calm. You can do it. Pull over. Just let him go. And I was inside like, no, I'm going to kill this. No, but you know you can do it. Just let him go. And then you get him clean, right? And I was thinking, man, a younger version of me, I'm putting him on a T-shirt. Like, I'm trolling him, troll call. It's going to be like, WB9, da-da-da. And I wrote it down because I was like, I'm going to go. But that's a long story to say that he did get to work him. We both had to work for it. You know, it was like I had to call 2 or 3 times for this op in Indonesia to pull me out. So did old WB. And
Foxtrot Alpha Hotel.
I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, that was not cool, man. But something, I don't know what it is. I think it's my age now. I'm just like, just get him out of the way. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm at the point now where, like, get these assholes out of the way. Let them go and be gone. And then let the rest of us, you know, But he wasn't any stronger than me. He wasn't any. It was just the guy got tangled up on the two of us. But he called for Sierra Tango Hotel. But anyway, I worked him next.
And to complicate it more, it's that the guy in Indonesia, English is not his first language. So he's dealing with that, the propagation, and you two are just mixing it up and going back and forth. And he's probably shaking his head like, look at these two idiot Americans.
Yeah. These Americans, these American nitwits, these ninnies, they can't even. But we did get him consecutively. I felt like I'll get in there next for sure. But that was just one of those bits. But that was a new one, man. And that was 9,780 miles. And I was like, damn, that is a long one. And we both had to work for it. So congratulations to Foxtrot Alpha Hotel, whoever you were. D-bag over America, whatever. But yeah, that's how that one went.
Great
and then,
representative of us.
And I think Mitt's got him too. Minnesota Mitt's got Indonesia too. Don's here. You let me know if you got him, Mitts. Minnesota Mitts, who's in the midst of another snow event. I don't know how the folks in Minnesota can do it so much. Man, it's constant. It's constant and it's cold. Anyway, he can do it. All right. So I don't know if anybody has put in. I can go through the chat to see if anybody's worked any new ones. Tracy
Todd
and Lori.
PKJ. He's worked. He said he's got 3 confirmed all-time new ones for him.
Nice.
Cool. What'd you get,
Excellent.
Todd? Rich is here. He says, I'm a newbie. I put my headphones and listen intently. I've got comfy headphones. Thank goodness.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that is the key right there, is having the comfortable headphones.
So, I guess best practices for DX, and one of the things I guess I learned this time around was patience. Patience really paid off. I let this old boy go, and I'm really at the point where I'm like, let these clowns go.
Let them go.
Just let him go
and that
first.
applies the same thing with working DX stations. It just let the big guns, the impatient people, let them in, let them go, and then just wait it out, and then it'll be just a lot easier and a lot less frustration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scotty, have you ever had an instance where you had a case like that, something happened, and here you are, you're dealing with the Alpha Hotels?
Yeah, it's my Alpha Hotel has been trying to get a POTA park of all things, not even in a contest or
Really?
trying to work an in-demand DX station. It's just just one of those afternoons where it just seems like every park on the air has a massive pile up, and everyone's calling on top of each other, calling on top of the operator. They're doing extremely long tail ending, and then people start to get a little grumpy, and there's a little pushing, a little shoving going on. But yeah, for POTA contacts, but usually with a contest, it seems like it's every man for himself. So you just kind of try to pummel through.
Well, that's
there
pretty much expected in the contest.
Yeah, yep. But nothing like Christian's Indonesia experience. That's kind of a one-on-one thing.
Well, you could see how the guy in Indonesia, he heard him in the beginning, and then he heard me at the tail end. He heard Sierra Tango Hotel. He didn't get my prefix, and he didn't get old man's suffix. So he kind of sent the broken call back, and then he called for Sierra Tango Hotel. And Jabroni goes and says, his whole thing. And I'm like, wow, man, it wasn't even like Sierra Echo Charlie. Like, it wasn't even close. He was like, stand by. I'm like, I'll put you in a figure 4 leg lock right now. Son of a bitch. Anyway, so keep patient, stay patient, man. And at some point, I think Steve said it over and over again, is at some point, they start to lose callers and they tail off, and next thing you know, they're clicking on their voice recorders to work it, and you kind of wait it out, see if it comes up. I like to track it. I can tell that this guy was working. He would go to New York and it'd go down to like Georgia, and he would be Connecticut. He was hitting a lot of East Coast, and slowly, it might have been 30 minutes later, he's starting to pick up the Midwest a little bit more.
It was probably the gray line was moving, and And then that propagation started to work for him, and he was just, sequentially working them as he was hearing them.
For sure.
And it just the nature of the contest, which is awesome. It's a funny story.
Yeah, I think I'm just getting a little more relaxed. I didn't let it beat me up. I just thought, well, of all the nerve, clutch the pearls. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, that ain't right.
Fire up a little Nag Champa and pop it down.
I got it. I got
Karen.
Light my candle. I got my Champa candle here. I got my Champa.
Oh, you sure do. Look at that.
I sure do. Smells good. I would
That's the way to
bathe in
go.
it.
Don't be a Karen on the radio.
Don't be that. This week in radio history, going back to March 5th, 1927, Steve and I were little dudes. I don't even think I was in the second grade at that point, but the federal...
We're playing stickball.
Oh, okay. The Federal Radio Commission holds its first meeting on March 7th, 1876. Now, this is when Mama got pregnant. I think it was one of these soldiers later on, because I found a musket and a couple balls next to my bed. Sorry, I'll stick with the...
Oh, my.
Let me stick with it, because it wasn't... I didn't find anybody's balls on my bed. Back to business. March 11th, 1948, the Audio Engineering Society, also known as AES, is founded in New York City. New York City? Give me a little bit more of that. Okay, good. And then on March 12th, 1933, President Roosevelt gives the first radio fireside chat. What you doing? Oh, who's on the controls? Who's on the wheels of steel tonight? Who's got control? Sheena? Oh, we got it. Sheena's got camera. We got problems. I better shift on over here. Check out some of the special events that are happening now. We're in full swing. Couple things happening. Scotty, what do you know?
All right, so what do we got happening this coming up weekend? We have the Virginia QSO party is happening March 18th and 19th. Also that weekend, Russian DX contest, 18 and 19. Also March 18 and 19, the British Amateur Radio Teledata Group's RIDI contest is happening. Some special event stations. There's a special event on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, Kilo 4 Kilo Juliet, Quebec. We'll be operating on March 19th from the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, based out of Lexington, Kentucky. And March 14th is National Pie Day, 3/14.
Jesus.
November 3, Papa is going to be operating a special event Pie Day station out of Princeton, New Jersey.
I like pie.
Pie's good.
Yep.
And
I
you
like
can see
pie.
all the
Pie,
events
apple
happening.
pie. I love my pies.
Let's talk about
on
pie
our,
for a
our
minute.
events on our Discord events channel.
Scotty's like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. I feel weird about it. Now, you brought up the pie. I like pie. What do you guys dig about the pies? I like an apple pie. I went for a chunky phase in college, and I was apple pie a la mode. I would just do that. Ooh. And there was something with the vanilla bean, and there was something different with the vanilla bean a la mode. Ooh. Anywhere I go, I thought I'd be fancy. I'm like, can I get that a la mode? Most people are like, what you talking about? You mean like heat it up with some ice cream on it?
You trying to drink your beer with the little pinky up in the air and stuff like that?
I was in Maryland. Just a quick little story. I was in Maryland when my dad passed away, right? And I'm with like my stepbrother and my brother. We were there and we were on a break. It was actually a break in the service type of thing. And these guys drive up to McDonald's, right? I haven't eaten meat in years, right? I'm like, I don't know. And so I get up in there and I'm like, what am I going to eat? And I go in and I ask for a parfait. And these good old Baltimore boys, they were like, a parfait? What's a parfait? Like it's like, like yogurt with fruit, man. Fruit and like yogurt, granola. Parfait. ooh, he's fancy. Y'all don't have no parfait. I'm like, they sell parfait. We got in a big parfait line. Everybody's like, come on, can you get out of the way? Anyway, that's a true story. The non-meat eaters, a parfait. You got a parfait for me? But I like
Parfait,
pie.
please.
Can we find out what everybody's favorite pie is? Do you like the pumpkin pie? I like apple. I even like a good cherry pie if it's like nice warm from the nice warm cherry pie.
Cherry, apple, and pumpkin. That's me.
That's it. Yeah, pumpkin is a good one. Steve, you got a favorite, or you're a pretty neutral
apple,
pie guy?
cherry, blue. I mean, any berry is. I'm all over it.
All right. Just checking to see.
We got
all right.
pawpaws out in this part of the country.
We got pawpaws too. Do you make pawpaw Yeah, pawpaws are good.
My friend Kathy makes a lot of things with pawpaw when they're ripe.
All right.
Steve's like, "What the hell's a pawpaw?"
Pawpaw is very much kind of in the banana family, if you will, but they're not really like bananas. But they're about this big. I'm holding up about 4 inches. They can get that big and they get soft.
You said that was 6.
That was it. I had to measure something by it. Oh, it's perfect time to talk about our sponsors. PowerFilm Solar and Gigaparts, providing quality solar power solutions for your portable operating needs. To explore PowerFilm's selection of quality products, visit gigaparts.com and search 100 watts, 100 watts. And take a look around there, because each click they get will help us, and I know they're tracking. So it would be cool if they hung out past the next quarter. I don't know if they will or not. All good people, but they're looking for that engagement. So open another browser if you're here or if you're listening at work, and go to gigaparts.com. You don't even have to buy anything. Just go there and look at 100 watts in their search, poke around, and that'll help the show. And it's a free and easy way for you to support the content and the community you enjoy. And look, there are many people now. I'm going to give a thank you to a couple guys now. But if you find value in this community and the content, and you can support us by going to buymeacoffee.com/100 watts. It's easy, and it's as easy as buying a real cup of coffee, and probably cheaper. And you can consider the benefits of a monthly contribution. We've got a dipole level. It's just $1 an episode, $4 a month. And that, Steve, is actually cheaper than that expensive stuff that comes from your part of the country. Boy, they sell it $7 a cup there. We don't do it like that. Yeah, they're every corner. Thank you for your too many. Like, it's too many. Number one commodity, I'm sure. But want to thank November 4 Echo Juliet Mike and Kilo Alpha Zero Victor November Whiskey for supporting the content that you enjoy. We appreciate you and thank you so much. We got off track there with the pie, but look, it's part of ham radio, and Scotty brought it up. So what are you going to say? He was like,
and Jim brought up a chocolate cream pie, and then I started thinking of one of my favorites, coconut cream pie. And
cheese pie sounds weird. That's what Kyle says. He knows people that like it.
I like cheese. I like cheese in all of its forms.
I like cheese. Depends on what
Kyle, you sure you're not from Wisconsin or something? You kind of, closet cheesehead or something?
All right.
There was Minnesota Mitts.
We'll talk all about it. Good night, Sheena. She's in and out. Got to go back to work. It's going to be a tough meeting tomorrow. She's gonna be like, "Who's this Minnesota meat? Not Minnesota meats. Minnesota
Gummy pies.
Mitts. Gummy pies. We talk about pies. Look, just a couple fellas here, just hanging out.
Good times.
Thank you for your support. We wanted to talk a little bit about repeaters on this show, because I did a show, and what I did is I ended up, and I can do it right now. I'll turn up. Let's see. Yep, we're scanning. Okay, so we're scanning my 2-meter 440, and there's probably no risk. It's right behind me here. You can see it going around. There's probably no risk of anybody coming on and talking on the 2-meter 440 side. And I did this while I was doing this show, recording an episode, and we just listened, and you'd hear it ID, but that was it. and I don't think anything was going on. So I was curious to see, what other repeaters were doing in other people's, towns and their states.
Good evening.
The
Oh.
time is 6:30 p.m.
There we go.
Sunday, March 12th.
Oh, there's that.
So we'll hear a
7:30.
little bit of that, but I ended up keeping it on 20 or 25 minutes and nobody ever came on. So it was just one of those things that sparked a curiosity. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about repeaters and lay a groundwork for the repeaters. Steve, you want to talk about repeaters and maybe your first understanding of those when you got in the game over 40 years ago, and maybe
I was heavily involved in it. I mean, but I was more involved on the technical side of it and the building of it and the maintenance. But I was a heavy operator, just because back then in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, it was mayhem. It was just very, very active. Everybody was going back and forth in their commutes, and it was just pretty much some of the busier repeaters were pretty much active all day, all night, and for the most part, it was as new people came along, it was relatively welcoming. There was a few that were
yeah,
that
that's
were
Scotty. That's Scotty said. Okay.
that were pretty much they were a little standoffish and they kind of got a little cliquish and things, but it's for the most part it was fairly welcoming, and then it just kind of slowly and then eventually, and I think when the cell phones really became popular, it just started really quieting down, and now it's pretty much it's barren wasteland, more or less. I mean, they're there, but it's just not active. There's a few core people that are operating, and some of the things I've noticed, and it's not everywhere, so don't take this. This is just what I'm observing, is that depending on the system or the owner of the repeater, they kind of set the tone and the and how it's gonna, then the vibe, let's more or less. And it could kind of get a little cliquish, and if new people come in, they kind of lose their minds. Others are very welcoming and things, so it kind of runs the gambit. But it's pretty tough, especially for someone new and trying to figure things out, because I've heard people come on, they're kind of figuring their way out, and they're just getting chastised by some of the regular users on that repeater. It's almost like going on to 7200 and mixing it up with those old boys, and you're brand new. Oh, I just got my General. I hear you. I want to, how's my radio? You're going to get annihilated. And that happens, and which is unfortunate. So it's, I mean, each one is different, and it just, and I'm guilty of it like everybody else, is just, I finally just started backing off. It was like, I don't want to deal with the drama, and I just want to chit chat. But sometimes it's like, oh, if your audio is not perfect to what the repeater owner wants, then they'll kind of start criticizing, like, I have no way to tailor it. It's a freaking 2-meter radio. I don't have anything to change the audio on it, so deal with it.
So I'll ask you both guys, because I know Scotty did some research recently. He was studying about repeaters, and I'll just throw it out to either one of you and ask how they work, because I know roughly, and I've made contact with them. I used to check in with the AriesNet, and I know that there is a repeater system somewhere in town, across town, that my radio is connecting to, that makes it the signal expand, because it can send it out, I guess, in the other direction, or anybody who can actually make contact into that repeater. But how do they work? And either of you or both of you, welcome to talk about it.
Well, I spent my whole career pretty much working on them and building them.
So you don't know anything about it. Scotty,
no,
go!
I know Jack. Diddly squat.
They didn't pay attention now. Okay, no, I mean, go ahead and talk about, like, how does, generally, I mean, what's the point of a repeater?
Well, there's some building blocks. There's the basic, there's the radios, there's the antenna system, and there is a audio processing and signaling component. So let's talk about the radios. You have a receiver, and then you have a transmitter. And those two are, the receiver is going to listen to your transmit, what you transmit on your mobile radio or your handheld, and then it's going to take that audio, and it's going to come out of the receiver, and then it's going to go into some kind of controller, typically, and that could be a single port, it could be a multi-port controller, but a basic repeater controller. Along with that audio, there's going to be some signaling. There's going to be typically two. There's what's called COS, which is carrier operated squelch, and then PL decode or CTCSS decode. So that's that tone that you put in, that when you program, okay, I'm going to operate on this repeater, this 3494 repeater, and I have to send a tone of 100 hertz. Well, there's a decoder in the receiver that's listening for that tone, and once it hears that tone, it sends a signal along with the carrier operated squelch to the controller. The controller then says, oh, I got valid signal here. I'm going to send that audio to the transmitter, and along with the PTT function to key the transmitter. So that's what the controller does. Then you have your antenna system. And so because you're listening on one frequency and you're transmitting on another frequency, there's a couple of ways of accomplishing that. You can have a separate receive antenna and a separate transmitter or transmit antenna. But the typical one is, because a commercial grade, high quality antenna for a repeater is going to run you about $1,400. So now you're dealing with, do you want to buy two of them? Nah, let's just use one plus the feed line. There'll be a device called a duplexer. And basically it's just a bandpass filter, and it just filters and allows the receiver signal to come down the antenna through the filters to go to the receiver, and then opposite. The transmit goes through the duplex filter and then combines and then goes up the same feed line and antenna. So you're using a single antenna, but it's doing it simultaneously as it's transmitting. The duplexer allows the transmitter signal not to interfere into the local receiver, and the local receiver filters out the transmit. And I'm just giving you the high level, but basically the components for a repeater is your RF portion, your transmit receiver, your controller, which is a way to process the audio, and then and the signaling, and then the antenna system, which is derived typically of a duplexer, feed line, and an antenna. So that's your basic components. Now, when you start dealing with linked systems, you add more complexity.
More repeaters.
Whether the link is RF or internet based, like VoIP, like Allstar or Echolink or IRLP. There's those are the three big ones, and that interfaces into the controller, and you mix audio, and but that's the basics on how a repeater works.
Well, that's unfortunate, because I was hoping that you would know something about it and could share some information. That was a little short of what I was hoping that you would bring tonight. But that's okay.
Sorry.
Drink. That's going to be one of the drinks later. Well, thank you for that, Steve. We're going to take a break here in a second. Scotty, anything more to add to that? Because I do have a question for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jim was asking in the chat what is the cost to build a repeater, and so it depends on really what you want to do with the repeater. If you want a repeater that's going to be put in a commercial environment that needs to be like, maybe it's an Aries repeater for your club that needs to be on all the time, no matter what. It needs to be a hardened system. You're going to need to buy commercial grade radios like Motorola's or like that. Power requirements, all that sort of thing. But if you're looking to do a repeater, maybe put it the antenna up on a tower at your place, and so that you and your local buddies can use it, then you can put together a repeater with a pair of like Yaesu 2900s. Really, the magic between the radios for a repeater is the repeater controller, like Steve was talking. You need a circuit that can take the audio from the receive radio, and pass it over to the transmit radio along with the push to talk, and then of course you need the filters so that you can share an antenna. So because with the repeaters we have an offset transmit and receive frequency, and so our filters, or duplexers as they're referred to, or cans, cavities, allow the use of two different frequency ranges to share an antenna and a feed line. And kind of protects the two radios from each other. So you don't, as one repeater is transmitting, it's not desensing the receiver, because these are running a full duplex. And so they need to have isolation so that they're not crapping on one another. And you can set that up. And if you're doing a repeater at home, you don't have this high energy RF environment to protect your repeater from, or need to protect neighboring repeaters from. In a commercial environment, you're on the tower with a bunch of other repeaters, often in a similar frequency range, and so the quality and depth of your filtering needs to be a high quality, multiple steps of filtering to tighten that bandwidth up, so that you're not getting crapped on by the neighboring tower's antenna, and you're not doing the same to them. So it's a local, a personal sort of kind of a club level, just kind of casual repeater. It can be done with a couple off the shelf Yaesus or ICOMs, a repeater controller off eBay for less than $100, and you're on your way.
All right. Well, I gotta say to our audience,
if you're looking at the costs, it's going to be comparable to a nicely equipped HF station, with an amplifier, tower, beam, the whole. You're looking at $5,000 to $7,000 with commercial grade equipment and feed line commercial grade antennas, and this is for a commercial site, and so there is quite of an investment into a repeater. So some people get a little testy over it because the amount of money that they put into it, but it's no different than what we have in our typical HF station, or upper end HF station.
Well, for everybody listening at home and those who have joined us here, I apologize. I thought we would actually get some useful information out of these guys. I just didn't know that they would. No, that's good stuff to learn there. And we're going to talk about this and open it up a little bit further in terms of what a repeater is, what it does, how it can serve, all that sort of stuff. We got to take care of a little bit of what they call business first. And check in with Scotty. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it here, and we're going to get to your questions in just a little bit. Right now, Scotty's here to let us know about anything happening in the Hamfest world. Scotty, what's up?
Got some Hamfests going on. Got my new camera view here for these segments. I do want to give a special shout out to a 100 Watts member and one that hangs out on the Discord, Bruce KG5YUO. He's the one that made this lovely wooden call sign for me. I believe Christian has one as well. His club's having their Hamfest, their annual 67th annual, actually, St. Patrick's Day Hamfest. That's happening in Midland, Texas. And they are having an excellent raffle that you can buy tickets for. You don't have to be present to win, and they will ship it to you. They are giving away an ICOM 6710 as their door prize. So,
damn.
So that's
7610.
7610. Yes, my bad. My
Just wondering if I got gypped out. I would. I better save up for the 67.
Got to get the new 6710. 7610.
Funky gummy in there.
They're giving away one of those as their door prize. So cool.
Nice.
There's a Hamfest happening actually in my neck of the woods that I was unaware of. March 19th, the National Capital Area Ham Radio Fair in Vienna, Virginia, which is just around the corner from Big Ben down there in Herndon, Virginia. That's happening on March 19th. I may actually have to pop down to that one. And then a bunch more Hamfests listed on our Discord, the events channel. You can see what other events are happening. Perhaps there's a Hamfest happening in your neck of the woods. So you can check that out on Discord.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you have a club gathering happening, let us know. We'll share it in our events tab. We'll mention it here on the show and on the Discord server. Drop us a line. The contact information is provided in our description. And if you're looking for a power solution, visit BioNO Power, offering the best lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bionopower.com. That's BIOENNO power.com. And to learn more about the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinaWire.com. You can check out the podcast archive, subscribe there, register for a 100 Watt ID. You can get a sweatshirt, a sticker, a mug, and a what we call new now is a Tuggy. Special order. 100wattsinaWire.com. Oh, Lord, save us, save us.
Oh, man.
I think that's what they call it, right? Is it Tuggy or a Snuggie? I don't remember, but I think it's called a Tuggy. That's what you want to get. Get you one.
Is that some kind of Midwest Snuggie or something? A Tuggy?
No, I think you know what it is. I think you know what it is, and it's actually your turn to sign up. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yep, this is 100 watts. This was 100 watts in a wire. Thank you. Sherry's like, just come back. Reel it all in. Forget it. Yeah, you heard it right. We'll get you a sweatshirt, coffee mug, and a Tuggy, all at 100 watts in a wire.
And a koozie, too.
And a koozie, whichever you want.
Marcus.
Man, got a Tuggy at the Browns. Okay.
Mark's comment in the chat.
Yeah, I got a lot of problems.
I'm sorry. I think my gummies are kicking in. All right.
That's all right. So we got some questions that were sent in. We want to get to those and try to help some people out here. After all, we want to entertain and educate, kind of mentor. We do have a little 2-meter action happening here. We got some guys talking around the way. So there you go. They're being active, which is cool. In the coming days, we'll talk more about maybe some of the things that have sent people away from repeaters. I would imagine the phones. Maybe it may just be as easy to text nowadays, your buddy, and it's kind of. And I think the politics. I think the politics of repeaters, not the politics of the people we vote for. You may hear plenty of that, but I'm talking about the ownership. Steve alluded to it a bit. About the people who spend the money, and they're kind of selective with who they want on it and how it's being used. And I don't know, it's a conversation. Yeah, ego, all this. So we can talk about that a little bit more, but I was curious to see how repeaters were in your area there.
I mean, it was a great discussion in the Discord. So that's if you haven't joined us in the Discord group, come and join us in the Discord group and tell us your experiences with repeaters in your local area.
Question for Pastor Joe, and my question for him is, how do you know what we're talking about? I mean, a Snuggie and a koozie and a Tuggy are very all useful tools, Pastor Joe. Anyway, keep me on the prayer list because I know we're headed down the wrong track.
Oh, we need it.
Questions are always welcome about life, amateur radio, whatever you want to talk about. We can go into detail about the Tuggies if you want to. Question here, it's a new ham. Any tips for building coax cables?
Oh.
Building coax cables? I have never heard of anybody building coax cables. I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess he means with the connectors. Steve's being a little facetious. Yeah, I don't think he means the cable. He probably means the, with the connectors.
Oh, building coax cable. Oh, okay. So adding connectors on. So, if you're going to do a lot of connectorizing, I would look into going to the crimp style connectors because they're faster. You don't have to worry about soldering. It does have its drawbacks on the crimp styles. Don't use them when you're going to have your cable, that you're feeding your dipole antenna and it's sitting up as 50, 60 feet because the weight of that cable is going to pull away on the crimp. But for most things, if you're doing a lot of cabling and connectorizing cables, the crimp style is the way to go. I go with the hybrid version where the center conductor is soldered, so I get to do a little bit of soldering and then crimp the shield. So that's the style of cable, connectors I like to use. But that's pretty much the way to go. I mean, you can learn to solder on with your standard PL259 connector and solder the shield. But if you're using foam, be really careful because the heat from the soldering gun is going to compromise your foam insulation.
All right, well, here we go. This just in. From the 100 Watts in a Wire newsroom, we have now the crimp-on tuggies. And we will follow up on that to see exactly what that is. But apparently it's now in the 100 Watts in a Wire shop. So good luck with your crimp-on tuggies. The sweatshirts are cool, too. Another question, how do you know if you are grounded well?
You can do a ground check. I mean, there is instruments that will test for continuity, conductivity, and but
resistance to the
if
ground.
you use, but those are, not everybody has that. You can use good techniques as far as using good conductors, and then attaching it to your service entrance panel ground. You want everything to go back to that one single point. So from your shack and wherever your ground is, you run preferably a number 6 wire and all the way back to your ground rod where your service panel is. And you're going to make a nice mechanical connection. You're not going to solder. You're going to have a kind of a clamp that you're going to clamp it to the ground rod. And then that way you will have, and doing those will give you a good ground connection, and just use good practices. But make sure to take everything back to your service panel entrance. You want a single point ground, and that's your source.
Dynamite!
All right. Yeah. There you go. Nothing new to report in the store at this moment. So we'll continue on with our questions. If you have one here in our live stream, put a Q in front of it, and we will get to it. And a reminder, we do have live coverage of the Sunday evening 100 Watts in a Wire net to follow here on this stream. Another question coming in. How come mobile antenna coax is so thin?
Just for easier to route it through the cable, plus routing the cable between the antenna and the radio. But most of the time, you're going to have a mount that's going to be like on the roof of your car or your truck, and they're not really designed for larger coax cable like RG8. It's designed for pretty small cable, and typically that's going to be an RG58. But then if you really want that really small stuff, that RG174, that really thin stuff, and I've been seeing some of those, but it just makes it easier to go through, so if it's a mag mount, you can go through your door seals and window, but I'm not a real big fan of that because it's super lossy compared to 58, but you're only dealing with 15, 17 feet of cable, so losses is not a big issue. But pretty much it's just practicality why the cable is smaller than your standard RG8.
I heard a couple guys on the radio talking recently, and it was on 2 meters in the afternoon, surprisingly, and they were talking about an antenna for a mobile that had some sort of magnet type deal that you could put part on the glass of either the back of your, the glass on the car, and then the inside has some sort of magnet that pulls these two together, and they somehow connect electrically through the glass.
That's like those old cell phone window mounts, and they pass energy through a capacitive coupling. Pretty much the same way a mag mount does. That's how a mag mount works. It's you don't have a direct metal to metal contact with the base of the mag mount. for the with your antenna. And what's happening is there's an electrical field that develops between the mag mount and in the car. It forms a capacitor, like a condenser mic essentially, and the glass mounts work under the same principle.
And they were liking it. The one guy was telling me, "You got to try this. You got to try it."
There was only one drawback: is if you got tint in your window, then because there's a metal component in the tinting in the glass. So, but yeah, no, that was a big common thing. Instead of using magnets, it was an adhesive that the window mounted antennas, and they've made them for 2 meters and 440, and cellular was what really became big with the glass mount antennas. But Scotty is 100% true. It's just basically the glass is your and the plates that are on the antenna part, and then the RF coupler inside the car. The glass is just a dielectric, and it just becomes a capacitor, and then they factor that in the design of the antenna, and off you go.
Okay. What is it? He said tint. He just said tint, not taint. Tint. He said tint, not taint. You don't need that on the list. What's wrong, you nasty?
Not the taint.
Give me high highs.
Sherry's nasty.
Good grief. Hey, want to let you guys know, yeah, I know. It's like she's got to go. She needs to get tested and needs to go to sensitivity training. How do you know what a taint is anyway? But he said tint. Jesus. Sherry and HR. Launched a new project a couple weeks ago at least. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I'm telling stories from my old radio days. We talk about some of that stuff on the radio sometimes here, just working at WMMR or WIYY in Baltimore and some of the rock bands. So if you look up my name, you don't have to. It's just a personal project. I'm decided I'm going to just go ahead and put some of these stories over there and celebrate some of the great bands that are having big, what are they, for their anniversaries for their records. Dark Side of the Moon just hit 50. I did a piece on that. And Joshua Trees hit 35 years from U2, so I plan on talking about that a little bit and then see where it goes, kind of, give myself an expression piece. But you're welcome to join me over there if you like. One question from our new friend here, Edhem. He says, my diamond mount antenna came with RG8 316 wire. Is this good for 50 watts out of a new FTM 200? He's installing that soon.
I would think that would probably be the limit, but I couldn't tell you what the power rating of that 316 is. But I don't, that small stuff, I don't think it would be really. I wouldn't be putting 150 watts or anything like that, but you can probably get away with 50 watts.
All right, cool. All right, there you go. Well, I think we've managed to fool y'all again. The hour goes fast. It really goes fast. None of this stuff is true that we've said, but we've got a new nickname for Don. Kilo Charlie 0 Delta Whiskey Zulu is now Minnesota Mitts. You can call him Mitts for short. And we'll have to talk about that at another time. Why he's called Mitts. What else? What else did we come up with? Mike
Timmons, I think it is. I enjoy HF more than using repeaters. I'm with you, brother. That's these days I prefer the HF. I
gotta say I'm an HF guy myself, but I will bring these questions back because I want to talk to Scotty about the 2 meter aspects and what's good for local communications. It does have a role. We do understand it's got a role, but we'll talk about repeaters a little more as we go. We appreciate you letting us know what you're struggling with. Drop us a line. We want to help you. That's part of it. I think this is one of those hobbies that are passed down, and we try to take care of each other and help each other out. So say something. If you need help, say something. We'll go look for it. And in the middle time, go get your sweatshirt, coffee cup. What was the other thing, Steve?
The tuggy.
The koozie. The tuggy. You get yourself a tuggy. And let us know what's going on. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Scotty. We will continue on with live coverage of the 100 Watts of the Wire Sunday evening net. We'll be listening for our friend Phil, 84 years old. We got one woman and an 84-year-old Navy veteran who checks in every week. It's worth a listen. Go get your radios together. 7-3, you guys. Thank you for doing that. Oh, yeah. Oh, I better tell them to take care of themselves. That means wipe properly. Take care of your hygiene. Oh, Jesus. And by all means, if you can, stay above the noise. Oh, Lord help us.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.